What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am Austin Carnes. Don't exactly have an intro for this just yet. I have one for the radio show. I got one for Steel City, two Jagoffs, but we're here. We're back on Zoom. It is Nicholas Brown and I. I want to say this is our third or fourth time hopping on Zoom and going through and recapping all of the recent interviews that we've done on two Jagoffs. Of course, we did our big two Jagoffs live podcast. I am not going to do an episode recapping the two Jagoffs live interviews because Nick and I actually are planning on doing a big two Jagoffs live recap tomorrow on Steel City Commuters. So if you want to hear us recap all the guests that we had live in person at Point Park University, tune in tomorrow to Steel City Commuters for all of that. With that being said, though, we've had a lot of guests on both two Jagoffs and Steel City Commuters over the last couple weeks. So I figured let's go through and talk about all the recent two Jagoffs cast. I am of course joined here by downtown Nicholas Brown back here on Zoom once more. Nick, how is it going, my good sir?
Good to see you. A lot of interviews lately. One of them actually was the most requested guest in Two Jagoffs history. Kane Warner returned, so we'll eventually touch on him. But we had like a little mix of every interview so far. We've had, some TV personnel, some Point Park personnel, and some wrestling personnel. So like nice little mix going on here within the past month or so on Two Jagoffs.
Absolutely, and I know on Steel City we've done the same thing too, and we're not going to spend too much time on it, but Ryan Jones joined us over there, Sherry Payne joined us, Peyton Celesti, Kevin returned for Truth or Dare, so we had a bunch of former guests and new guests, exclusive guests to just Steel City, along with our typical crossovers and our regular two Jagoffs guests, so I'm excited to get into this one today. But something that we did a little different this time around, Nick, was actually the first episode we're going to talk about. And that was the 10 questions that Austin Carnes has never been asked before. Now, we had some scheduling conflicts that week, so we kind of had a last minute turnaround on Zoom. And I thought it would be really cool to do an episode where I kind of get interviewed without actually taking up a whole episode slot, if that makes sense. So I had Nick Brown prepare 10 questions that I personally never answered publicly before. Now, some of them were about my personal life, my branding, my network, my work experience, and I answered it live publicly for the first time. So, just real quick, Nick, what did you think of that episode? I thought it was pretty cool.
Basically, it was all about Austin Carnes, who he was, how he started the
Yes.
podcast, what drove him to Point Park, where is he at now with two Jagoffs. It was just an episode getting to know you on top of already knowing you, but deep down inside of trying to figure out a little bit of knowledge about you with podcasting, with sports podcasting, with Point Park, and all the different fields that you want to get into in your daily life.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about that episode two was it was kind of a spin-off of Ask Austin Anything, which was a series that went on for a while on two Jagoffs. We kind of halted it just because, again, the repetitiveness. We wanted to have some more unique episodes. And an interview will be unique every week because it's always going to be someone new. It's always going to be a new story, new perspective, new dialogue. Getting into our first official interview that we did since some guy named John. I hate to bring him up. I apologize, Nick Brown. I know he has been tormenting you as well on Facebook, as well as the rest of our friend group. It seems that Kevin Homa has turned on us and has joined the Leaders by Example. I don't exactly know why or what his motive is there, but that's besides the point. Lucas Coons, it seems like he's also on the fence with the Leaders by Example, and Chug calling me coat rack now. Obviously, Chug's been picking on me at Thursday night fights, but again, these are all different stories for different days. We had on a crossover guest, and this was one of the final crossovers we're going to do for a while, and that was Dean Keith Palo on Steel City Commuters and two Jagoffs. I want to get your thoughts, Nick, on Dean Palo. What do you think of this episode?
I didn't realize Dean Palo has been at Point Park for a number of years, 22 years to be exact. He eventually crossed paths with Sherry Payne over at Robert Morris, and now is at Point Park. Keith talked a lot in length about his day-to-day responsibilities at Point Park, his love for sports. I also didn't realize Keith Palo was a sports guy and was pretty much
Mm-hmm.
involved in every sport. You name it, Keith has either coached it, has been part of this sport, or has had some affiliation with it. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, I believe Keith is also an announcer too at one of the local high schools. I don't remember off the top of my head, but again, Keith likes soccer, basketball, baseball, football, you name it. Keith talked a lot at length about that, but also his experience to Robert Morris, being dean of students at Point Park University, uh, deep conversation going beneath the surface for Keith Palo and kind of shedding light on Keith. He really doesn't do podcasts, so this was a really great opportunity for both of us to really get some more knowledge and get some more connections under our belt for Keith Palo.
Ready for another rant?
Yes.
Damn CityCast. Damn CityCast. There was another one of those recording mishaps where we didn't exactly get the studio like we wanted to in time, and unfortunately, our interview got cut a little short. We still got 41 minutes out of Keith Palo, which, in all fairness, is pretty fair for an interview. I was hoping to get closer to the hour mark since there was two of us there, give us both enough time to get more questions in. I know both of us kind of had to crunch in our questions, especially that last part of the episode.
Yes.
But he still shared great perspective. We still got his overall story just in time. We still had a chance to talk sports and get his favorite restaurant. So we hit on every key point that we typically do in the interviews, which was great. But I personally believe there's a lot more that we could have got out of Keith Palo, which is why I would love to have him back on either Steel City, two Jagoffs, both, or something sometime in 2026. Palo is going to be one of the first returning Point Park guests I would like to have because I feel like we have some unfinished business with him in the good sense. Outside of that, though, everything you said was pretty much spot on. Keith Palo has been around at Point Park University for a while. He has helped so many students, and he shares a lot of the same advice and a lot of the same virtues as Chris Brusala said, and that is to show up, get involved, and be proactive within your community, within your university. And everything that he talked about in that episode, for us personally, has came to fruition, and I couldn't have been more proud to have him on.
Most definitely. Keith, we ran out of time with him, so we did have to condense the interview. We didn't get through everything we wanted to. I don't even know if we had time to ask Keith the food question
We
like
did.
two Jagoffs. We did. Okay, that was the most important part. But again, we had to kind of condense our interview and really didn't have a deep dive into going further into Point Park sports, further into the draft, athletics, what we really wanted to. We had to kind of hit every topic with about 5 to 10 minutes to spare.
Next interview we have was one of our fellow Point Park students, actually. He is the third and final sideline producer of Pioneer Sideline. He is a one-third contributor of the We Are Family Pittsburgh Sports podcast, none other than my good friend Jake Bell. Now, I had Jake on shortly after I did my AEW experience, actually, which was pretty insane. Jake came on pretty last minute, again, due to some scheduling conflicts, and I couldn't have been more happier to have him on. He came on right at the perfect time, too, because this was right at the tail end of the Pirates season, and the week after, we just happened to have the voice of the Pirates. So Jake did a really good job at bringing some insight into baseball, which we really don't cover as much on the podcast, due to the fact that Lucas and yourself really don't keep up with as much. Honestly, I don't even really keep up with baseball as much as I probably should. So Jake brought some much needed insight into the baseball world on this podcast, and he shared a really cool story about where he came from, where he grew up, what got him in the sideline, and not even just sideline, all of the UView shows, how he's a contributor to every single one of them. He produces, he edits, he uploads, excuse me, and he essentially is the guy to go to when getting that stuff done. And again, he's also a podcaster. We got to do all the cross branding with the podcast. We had Peyton Celestia on Still City. We're eventually going to have Nate Shivens on one of the podcasts, and Jake Bell. Had to get all three of them on.
I also went on We Are Family too.
You did. You went on We Are Family that same week, actually.
Yes, that week was a little bit of a crossovers and everybody mixing in. I think Jake brought a unique perspective into this kind of interview because part of the We Are Family podcast, part of Sideline, he's involved in pretty much everything regarding UView and calling games, athletics, helping out. I didn't know this, Austin, looking at his LinkedIn too, because that's where I go for everything. Jake has worked at the Pittsburgh Pirates, he's worked at Kennywood, he's worked at all these different sports teams and like different entertainment aspects. And I think that's what stands out among Jake is Jake has that experience in entertainment, in the industry, in sports and entertainment because his experience and his knowledge of it between baseball, between football, hockey, Jake can kind of talk about it all, break it down into the sense. And that's kind of what Jake did on the podcast when we interviewed him and talked about him and try to get more out of him. His knowledge regarding baseball is just elite, especially sports and basketball, breaking down specific key plays, key players. And he's kind of like the moderator of it all on We Are Family. Sitting on the sidelines, chilling. We'll say something if needed, but also making sure everybody else is in line. And probably he's so good at it. You may not even know that, but Jake is probably one hell of a dude.
Absolutely. And Jake is one of the all-stars that we have here at Point Park. There's only quite a few that I give that name to, and I will proudly give it to Jake. Greg Brown happened to come the week after, though, which, boy, oh boy, that was some big shoes to fill. Greg was arguably the most notable guest we've had. Some would say Bill Hillgrove still was our most notable, which I would say so just because of how long he's been in the industry for. But Greg Brown gets national coverage, not just regional. So he has been doing the Pittsburgh Pirates for God knows how long. He's literally done everything from being the mascot to working in marketing to working in sales, even going to Buffalo and spending time with the Bills before coming back to the Pirates. So Greg Brown has done it all, but obviously he is the voice of this team. He is the voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and dealing with the Pirates for as long as he has and as long as we all have as fans obviously is torturous because it's awful. The Pirates are atrocious. So the fact that Greg Brown was able to come on the podcast and share some insight onto the Pirates season, along with an insider's perspective of working with Bob Nutting, working with Don Kelly, working with Derek Sheldon, working with Bob Walk and Neil Walker and all these names that's in the Pirates organization was really cool to have. And not only that, the best part, the cherry on top for this interview, it was Greg Brown's first public appearance since the Pirates season ended. So we had a first real insight of a Pirates broadcaster the second the season ended. That was a big plus for two Jagoffs.
Not only that, too, when you touched on the Pirates, the way he described it, I think, kind of set the tone for how that season went and beyond. Terrible. I think that's like
Yeah.
the biggest clip from it all. It was terrible. I literally thought I was listening to a Pirate game, given Greg Brown's voice is just
So
natural.
distinguished.
It's so distinguished. If you hear it, you think it's going to probably be a Pirates game, some kind of baseball game. I wouldn't be opposed if Greg Brown got into doing football. I would love to hear that voice for the Steelers, for
Well,
certain
Bills fans were
teams.
lucky enough to hear it.
Right. But, Greg is one hell of a dude. He shared a lot of insight into the behind the scenes working inside the Pirates room, inside Bob Nutting, and this atmosphere, something that you don't really get to hear about because the atmosphere right now inside the Nutting family is treacherous and turmoil given where this team is and the direction this team wants to go into, with coaching, with general managers, with players. And Greg was able to kind of hint at that and hint at where this team may be going, but also staying neutral and coming at it with a reporting perspective, reporting like he would on TV instead of giving his own personal views. Of course, he did give his own personal views, talking about like the atmosphere, which is always great. But also, I'm eager to see and think, where does Greg think next season is going to go? How does he think this offseason plays out? Because you kind of touched on it a little bit, but he's already starting to prepare for next season. Like, does Greg ever relax, go on vacation, spend time with family? I feel like Greg is working around the clock, even in the offseason.
I will say this, he is going to be going on vacation Thanksgiving week. He did tell me that actually whenever I was just kind of talking with him. But the cool part about Greg Brown is too, Nick Brown, I don't even consider Greg Brown to really be a connection anymore. I consider him to be a friend in the business, which is kind of weird to say, but Greg and I have known each other now for almost a year, which is weird because this month, actually, November, yeah, I have known Greg Brown for almost a year now because end of November last year, I met Greg for the first time. I was invited to a charity dinner at Point Park University for the new ballpark that they were building for the Point Park men's baseball team. And I sat at the table with Steve Blass, Pirates Hall of Famer, Greg Brown, Don Kelly, surprisingly, and a lot of other notable folks within the organization. So I already had a prior relationship to Greg. I obviously had the chance of touring PNC Park with him and spending an entire day watching him broadcast live, which was an insane experience. I've gotten coffee with him several times. He's came down and did the podcast. I've seen him at other Point Park functions. He's given presentations before. I've helped him do some stuff around campus. So I've probably seen Greg now on a couple dozen occasions already over the last year. And again, I have his number. He has my number. I have his email. He has my email. We talk quite often, actually. And he's one of the few guys that's in the business that not only has taken me under his wing and mentored me, but has also given me the green light and the go ahead on my opportunities that came my way. So anytime I did my wrestling events, he would be the first one to say, "Hey, I saw what you did with this. Congratulations. Keep it up. You're on the right track." A lot of people pass it down in this industry, Nick Brown, but not too many people take that time to actually listen and watch some of your work.
He
And
also
Greg is one
doesn't
of the few.
he also doesn't sugarcoat the topics. He'll tell you
No.
plainly like it is. There's like no
Yep.
ifs, ands, or buts. That's the thing about Greg too, is
Straight to the point.
he's not shy to share his opinions and to tell you when you're wrong because Greg has 30, 40 plus years of experience and understands what works in the business and doesn't.
And this is why I love having the broadcasters on because they're the most blunt. They're the most open. Josh Getzoff was. Greg Brown was. Bill Hillgrove, Rob King, Robbie and Smikowski especially. These are the kind of guys that really laid into it. And the next two broadcasters, even though they were pro wrestlers, pro wrestling broadcasters that we're going to get to in a second, they even shared pretty similar advice compared to the other sports broadcasters in the sense that if you want to get into this industry, not only do you need the connections, not only do you need to show up, you need to accept the fact when people tell you that you're wrong and you need to change something. Because if you are so hard headed in this business and saying, no, I'm right, I'm always right, I know what I'm doing, you're not going to make it. I hate to be
Nope.
that guy. You got to be able to go up to a pro like Greg Brown and say, hey, Greg, am I on the right track? And he says, nope, try this or try something else. Or maybe step outside of your comfort zone and, yeah, sure, you might have the voice to be able to do a newscast or a radio broadcast or call a basketball game, but do you have the talent to edit it? Do you have the talent to put together the B roll? Do you have the talent to run the cable or actually run the camera that's being used for the broadcast? Those are the skills that gets you into the industry, not just the ones that gets you on camera. So Greg Brown taught me that. I'm blessed for it. Glad to have him as a connection, and he will definitely be back on the podcast. And I know that you were going to say this too. I could just tell by your face. The promo that he was in was hilarious because he called me out saying, "What took you so long to get you on two Jagoffs?"
It's
I'm
about
sorry,
time.
Greg. I'm sorry, Greg. I'm sorry. I was saving the best for last, but that's my bad. I should have got you on a little sooner.
It's about time.
It is about time. He pressed me right in that promo. He pressed me more than some guy named John did. I was like, whoa.
Not only pressure in the promo, but also pressure in the episode. Wow, it's about time for having me on. Thanks.
He did. Again, he's right to the point. He don't care. But 48 minutes of Greg Brown, that is 48 minutes that I wish everybody would go and watch because you will learn so much in it. So much.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's Greg Brown. When you hear the voice, you're going to think you're watching a pirate game. It's that distinguished.
That distinguished. Next guest that we had, you actually had the pleasure of meeting, helping me out behind the scenes with the promo, which in my opinion might have been one of my favorite promos I've done for a guest. It was my friend Joe Dombrowski. And again, these next two broadcasters I consider to be friends, not friends of the business. Friends of the business and friends are different. Friends of the business are somebody that I can contact any point, get advice from, and share my work with and get honest opinions on. Friends are someone I can go have a beer with on a Sunday. I mean, Joe is straight edge, so I wouldn't drink with Joe at all. Toddy, I drink with Toddy before. Why not? But Joe Dombrowski is a friend. I've known Joe for a little over a year now as well. And I've talked to him almost every day at one point. And then it got to a point where he got busy with his schedule. I got busy with mine, but we'd still stay in touch. I even talked to him earlier today. And Joe is a well-known professional wrestling broadcaster. He's done MLW, Ring of Honor, AAA. He's been all over the place. GCW, Pro Wrestling Revolver, IWC, which is where I am currently at right now. He has been all over the globe, even in the UK and Mexico, which I think is really cool. And he came on for an hour and 18 minutes and shared his story and shared what it means to be in the business. And Nick Brown, I know you're not really someone that's as familiar with the wrestling scene. You've been getting into it much more recently, and I'm proud of you for it. You're actually going to your first show this Friday at VCW with Kevin and I, which I'm very excited for. But as somebody that's now been in the wrestling business for a little bit, you're catching on. What'd you think of Joe?
Joe caught on immediately when he walked in. I was pulling off my normal shenanigans and played right into it. Oh, of course, Austin is. I mean, do you expect anything different? The promo, I think, was the least I was not expecting.
I
Typically,
wasn't.
we go over promos with guests, so here's a little sneak peek behind the scenes. They walk in. Normally, the promos are recorded either before, it's typically recorded after, but given Joe's circumstances, given my schedule and the whole schedule of the day, we recorded the promo beforehand. Typically, we go not word for word, but we kind of give a general sense of who's going to be in the promo, what's going to be the promo, how long the promo is going to be. Given Joe and his shenanigans and his typical character, like as a broadcaster, as a friend, and not whatever you want to call him, decided to improv. Austin is not much of a person to improv. It's
What do you
either
mean?
his
That is not true. That is not true. Two
in
Jagoffs
certain
Live was all
aspects.
improv.
No, in certain aspects.
You
You
gotta
like
take that back. That's not true. No, 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 no. I'm not gonna let
no,
you slide on that one. No, 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 no. Improv is my specialty. That's all I do at pro wrestling.
no, because when
Literally all.
Joe said it, you goes, I'm not sure if I'm really gonna like this. And
Because
then you went,
I'll explain. But go ahead. I'll let you finish your point. But I disagree. But go ahead.
so we recorded the promo. I had no idea what to expect, and Joe just started pulling out these random items. I don't know what the hell he had. I don't remember. It was like all these items, and at the end he was like he walked off stage and then he walked off the camera and he threw something back at you, and that's how the promo ended. It was like a minute and a half long. I'm thinking to myself, don't think that's the way we wanted to go with it. It was successful. It was interesting. It was a very nice episode. I did listen to Joe's episode, talked a lot about the business, talked a lot about, connecting, networking, and of course, the connections that you make, you're always going to have to rely on eventually in the end. So never burn bridges. I think that's a big core central theme with a lot of these announcers. And you just have to let it slide. You have to, whatever's thrown at you, let it go. I think, and Joe's really good about that. Whatever's thrown at him, whatever, you want to torment somebody, go right ahead. You got to play into the scene, got to play into it all.
And he had a very calm demeanor in this episode too, which was nice.
He was calm. He was like, he didn't get rowdy. He was like very calm. The fun part about it was watching him put on the makeup and watching him put on his suit and getting ready behind the scenes. He brought like this whole suitcase. I'm like, Joe, sure, just make it your living room. I don't care.
Yeah, he was also on the road that day too, so he was giving me some a suitcase to take home full of wrestlers and action figures and stuff he was trying to sell, and then I had to give it back to him the next time I saw him, which again, that's what you do in the wrestling business. You scratch each other's backs, you help out the ones who help you. So I was trying to pay it forward, help out my good friend Joe. And Joe gave us a really good episode. I have no complaints though, but the one afterwards, I didn't expect to be as good, or some might even say better. Toddy Tondera, everybody's favorite, my fellow broadcast colleague at 880 Wrestling. He also does Enjoy every once in a while. Neo Pro he's done before. 880 is his bread and butter though. That's his baby right there. Kind of like IWC is mine, but I would also consider 880 to be my baby right now. What'd you think of Toddy Tondera? And I know you weren't there to meet him. It was LK that was there, and LK already knew Toddy from before, just from coming. You've never personally met him. He knows of you, and you know of him. So, what was your thoughts on this episode?
Toddy was calm. I thought maybe Toddy was going to bring a lot more energy, a lot more hyperness. He was like calm. He like again, just like Joe and another broadcaster, he kind of told you how it is. And we sound like broken records, but again, these are the type of people in the business that are willing to stay back, that are willing to help you, that are willing to make you connections, that are willing to give you connections in the long run. And that's what Toddy kind of explained. But also his backstory was also very interesting. I don't want to give too many details, don't want to spoil it because it's a really cool episode. And taking shots at people, I mean, I love that. I take shots all day long too. Um, Toddy was probably up right up my alley. He's another one that's like on my train. I'm chill, I'm calm. I lay it out. If you don't like it, hell with you. Move right along. I don't care. I'm not offended. Toddy's one of them that if you say something off the rails, he's not offended. He just makes fun of you and keeps on trucking.
I love Toddy because we also turned this episode into kind of playing into the 880 wrestling storylines a lot. We talked about the Dead Hand Society. We talked about Leaders by Example. We
Oh
talked
God.
about yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring them up. We talked about the Department of Jocks. We talked about Fourth Line, MV Young, a lot of the greats that is currently there at 880 right now. So that was fun playing into it. I love the story he shared about his unfortunate injury that he had. It was a gruesome one, and I was very surprised on the recovery process that Tawny went into just to even recover from that injury. It was at a bar floor. He slipped on. You can hear it in the episode, but my goodness, it was definitely gruesome. But I love Toddy. Toddy has done so much for me outside the business. I don't want to say these stories on record, but let's just say Toddy and I have been to several events outside of 880. We've even been to parties together. And every single time that I've always been there, Toddy has always had my back. I've always looked up to Toddy as like a big brother because Toddy has always taken care of me in this business.
For
So
now.
what do you mean for now?
Until you join Leaders by Example.
I will never, Toddy Tondera, my friend, everybody's favorite. If you're listening to to this episode right now on this YouTube channel, I will swear to you, I will never join that scumbag bastard, some guy named John, and the leaders by example. Never in a million years. They would have to drag me out of Carnegie off the G2, put me in a leader by example shirt, and then I would be a leader. But even then, I wouldn't even take the oath. I would not even take the leader by example oath.
I don't even know
Kevin,
why. I don't even know why you would fall into that trap because I guarantee you, John and Clayton could absolutely do that. You
they
play.
could if they wanted to. My bodyguard, unfortunately, has turned on us, essentially. Apparently, he's their bodyguard now. He bodyguards by example. Kevin, I mean, we don't need Kevin. It seems like Mr. Jack Dean is really the only one that's on our side, but he's been absent from both podcasts for God knows how long. It's me and you, buddy. We're in this together. We're screwed.
Oh, if I have the choice, I'm gonna be sitting on the sideline saying, I don't even know who you
Oh, they're
people.
gonna bring you into this too. If you're with me, you're coming down. Whole ship comes down.
No.
This is like the Titanic, my friend.
Oh no, I'm
Oh
sitting on the
yeah.
sidelines.
Oh,
I'll
there
be
ain't no
on this.
sidelines on the Titanic, my friend.
I'll make my own sidelines. I'm
Listen,
my
leaders
own
by
referee.
example. Leaders by example of the iceberg. We're on the ship. We're both screwed.
What did we rename it on the radio show today? Loneliness by example.
Yeah, loneliness by example. That's Kevin.
Well, that's going to be the whole team soon once because I am not paying $20 for a leaders by example shirt. That is a total scam.
Yeah, you would pay the extra $5 and get yourself a nice two Jagoffs t-shirt. That's a lot better.
Sure, sure is. I mean, at least it's a podcast I'm representing and not some kind of stupid ass club fan club. I don't even know. I
A
don't even know how you
team.
team. I don't even know why they're a team because oh, that's just sends shivers down my spine. Oh,
I know. Ugh. Leaders by example. Ugh.
I mean, I saw them this week. You know, walking through the city, there was a lot of garbage cans and dumpsters. It's right, they were all right there, so they're surrounded every day.
Did you know that I actually saw him at work today?
Did you actually?
Yeah, I was outside cleaning up dog shit and I looked on the ground and I saw Clayton King. It was insane.
I mean, it's right there in front of us every day.
It is. Literally, leaders by example are everywhere. Reese, Marco, Clayton, John, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. We do have one more guest to talk about though, and I feel like this is going to take us a minute because of how important this one is. The episode's already blowing up. Same with the promos. Caden Warner returns. Now, for those who don't know, Caden Warner was the second guest we've ever had in the history of two Jagoffs. The first was Devontae Dean. I interviewed him in a classroom at Carlington. One day I will get Devontae on for a little bit of a longer form episode to give him his respect because I really didn't know how to do this whole podcasting thing back then. Caden Warner, kind of a similar story. My first ever episode in the Media Hub was Caden Warner, but I did not know how to use the camera. And that is the only episode that we've ever done that I didn't use the camera. So I felt like it was my due diligence to give Caden Warner the rightful platform of being on camera, sharing his story, and allowing me to post a couple of promos to kind of get his network up a little bit more too. And in this episode, we connected right off the bat. I saw him twice today. No, three times today when I was at school. Once with you, once in the dining hall, and then the other somewhere, and the other just in the hallway. So shout out to Caden. I see him around campus all the time. But Caden Warner came on. He talked about his upcoming season with the men's basketball team. I love how he touched on the team not having a home game till practically Christmas because that's big going into the season. I mean, whenever you're starting off on that many games away and then you come back home and there's not even really a crowd there because everyone's on break, that's a whole different atmosphere. So they're really going to have to lock in at the start of the season if they want to have MEC playoff appearance hopes. And then we talked NFL because a lot of people don't know this, but Caden is a big NFL fan, a big NFL lover. And we had a little bit of a debate on the MVP award. He thought it was Jahmyr Gibbs. I was leaning towards Baker Mayfield at the time. Obviously, my opinion has differed. I'm kind of on the Patrick Mahomes, Drake May banter right now, but that's a different story for a different day. Don't roll your eyes. You're wearing Kansas City. I don't want to hear it. But Patrick Mahomes, we talked about that for a little bit. And then we talked about some other stuff. He shared his story a little bit again, and I got to tell you, if you want to listen to an episode, this is a must listen to. 49 minutes of just pure chemistry.
I did not realize Ken Warner was an absolute NBA 2K gamer with the gang. That's one no idea. I used to be a gamer myself. I used to play NBA. I used to play Madden. I used to play Fortnite. Caden, if you're ever down, I can buy 2K this for Christmas and build my 7-3 center, my 99 overall, and we can hoop in the city, as they say on 2K. But no,
Caden
Caden
would
was
smoke
one.
you.
What?
Caden would smoke you.
I didn't say 1v1. I said we can run duos,
You
trios.
didn't
We
say that.
can
We said we can hoop in the city. That's what you said.
we can hoop in the city. That means being a team.
All right.
That's the 2K methodology. That's the 2K talk. But
Sure.
I used to play. I played since 2017 for quite some time. I played 2017, 18. Kane was the best. He was one of the most requested back, and it was just fit because season is just starting. I think Caden, the way he kind of describes this basketball season, sheds some light on the atmosphere. When you start so many games on the road and you're traveling to different cities and to different places day by day, that takes a toll on you. You're not going to have a big crowd. You're really not going to have a big fan base, support base. You may really not have many people on your side in attendance. You have to perform almost perfectly on the road because when you come back to Point Park, when you come back for home, your first home games in December, everybody's on Christmas break. You have to be able to sit comfortably in the stands. Get it? Not only on the court in the stands,
Yeah.
but also in total with the amount of games that you've played, what you've won, because once December comes, January is here, playoffs are literally right around the corner, and there's really not much time to, if you're already starting off on a lower leg, to get above that higher leg. There's not much time, there's not much room for improvement. You kind of have to almost go perfectly on the road. So when you're at home, it's easier. But I don't want to jinx it, Austin, but isn't the schedule a little bit harder in the beginning and easier in the end?
I wouldn't say necessarily easier in the beginning and harder in the end. They have a lot more travel games, and by travel games, I mean like teams outside of their conference, outside the Mountain East. So strength of schedule is definitely a little tougher in the beginning of the year because there's some D1 competition along with some more superior D2 teams. But as the season winds on, you get rematches against some of your MEC teams. You play them twice, one home, one away. So the matchups become thinner and you can kind of have more film on each other, especially when all the MEC teams collide, because there's not many. I think there's only like 10. So whenever, once the season winds down a little bit, it does get a little easier. Now, last year's schedule in particular was the easiest because they played Salem, and no offense, Salem is god awful. So that was kind of an easy way to end off the year, even though they lost that game, which was sad because I actually called it. But that's a different story for a different day.
Normally, we say you have to go perfect at home if you really want to have the best record. This season's a little bit different for the men's basketball team. They kind of almost have to go perfect on the road, given how many road games they have at the beginning. When you get back, when you get back into the home court, it may matter, but just think of how many games you've had on the road already, putting you in your position where you're eventually going to end up in the new year when you come back from break. That sets a whole new precedent. That sets a whole new atmosphere for you. And that kind of gauges where this team, how this team's going to feel into Christmas break. If they're going into Christmas break with a lot of momentum, with a lot to celebrate, that momentum is going to carry. But if they're already on this downslope, downhill heading into the new year, it's going to be very tricky for them coming off a Christmas break, coming off of this slump to try and get back to where they need to go in this conference.
Couldn't agree more with you on that. And with that all being said, that is actually every single interview that we have done recently on two Jagoffs, along with some of the Steel City ones we mentioned before as well. This month of November is going to be insane because we're actually going to be recording a lot of interviews at the start of the month and stocking up since, of course, Thanksgiving and holidays and midterms and a lot of other stuff are happening this month. So we want to make sure that we get stocked up on stuff now so that later on this month we can kind of take it easy and not really have to worry about pumping out too much. But expect a lot of professional wrestlers on this month. This is a big time of year for wrestling. November and December is like the big months, especially because of on the independent scene, just because of like the New Year's shows, the Christmas shows, the holiday themed ones, a lot of people on break. So this is the time of year where we've been pulling a lot bigger names. We have some cool ones. Lucas is going to be doing a co-interview with me eventually. I know me and you may or may not have another crossover. We have a ton of Steel City guests lined up, which I'm excited for. And we have a ton of debuting guests on two Jagoffs. At one point this year, we're even going to have another two-person interview because remember, Katie and Derek was the first one we did. We have another tag team coming on for an interview. So it's going to be great. It's going to be a great time of year. I feel like the fans of two Jagoffs are going to be in for a treat the next 2 months.
I won't be back on two Jagoffs till beginning of the new year.
No, you'll be back on
No,
again.
that's a lie.
Eventually. You were just on weekly predictions. Oh, and speaking of weekly predictions, we will be bringing on a guest hopefully every week for weekly predictions. Lucas and I most likely is going to be alone this week just because of how crazy our schedule is right now with two Jagoffs Live just ending. But the one guest that we have had on, aside from Nick Brown, of course, has been Nick Shermito. Nick Shermito joined us week 8 for the week 8 predictions, and I think it was just you and I that covered week 9. Lucas and I will be back at week 10. We do have 3 guests as of right now lined up to help us with the weekly episodes, so I'm excited to see how it turns out. But for right now, don't forget to go subscribe to 2 Jagoffs. We just hit over 100 subscribers there. We're looking to gain even more. We need 1,000 to monetize, so come on, y'all. Let's go subscribe over on 2 Jagoffs YouTube page. Go check out Steel City Computers. Go check out all Nick Brown's link as well. He just recently did an article for the Trib. Hopefully, another one will be coming out in the Trib soon. Who knows? But thank you all so much for supporting us. I'm going to give Nick Brown the final word here in this YouTube video. Any final words for our good listeners?
We're booked through year end, both podcasts. We can officially say it's going to be one hell of a ride heading into break because this is where everything starts to heat up, especially NFL, looking into who's going to be making the playoffs. Super Bowl will be coming back. Basketball is going to be heating up, Point Park, locally, nationally. It's a fun time. This is the time to strap in. We have a long ride ahead.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well, Nick Brown, thank you so much from Austin Carnes, the downtown Nicholas Brown. This was our YouTube special. We'll see you in a couple weeks when we do this episode once more. Peace.